Have you ever felt like you were wrestling with your own destiny, caught between your own plans and a higher purpose? Today we journey back in time to uncover the extraordinary life of a man whose story is a powerful testament to transformation, struggle, and divine blessing. This is the story of Jacob, a man who wrestled with a heavenly being and prevailed. As we explore his journey from a deceitful usurper to the patriarch of a nation, we discover the profound lessons his life holds for each of us. Jacob was the second born of Isaac and Rebekah's twin sons. His name, given at birth, meant he who supplants or grasps the heel, a name that would foreshadow the course of his early life, for he was born clutching the heel of his older brother, Esau. As they grew, their differences became clear. The scripture tells us in Genesis chapter 25 verse 27, Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country. While Jacob was content to stay at home among the tents, Esau was his father's favorite, a man of the field, while Jacob, a quiet man, was favored by his mother, Rebekah, and this family dynamic set the stage for a rivalry that would define their youth. One day, Esau returned from hunting, exhausted and famished. He saw Jacob cooking a stew and said, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." Jacob, ever the opportunist, replied, "First, sell me your birthright." In a moment of weakness, Esau agreed, trading his future inheritance for a single meal. As Genesis 25, verse 34 says, "So Esau despised his birthright," and this was the first major step in Jacob's quest to secure the blessing meant for the firstborn. Years later, as their father Isaac grew old and blind, he decided it was time to pass on the patriarchal blessing to Esau. He sent Esau to hunt game and prepare a savory meal. But Rebekah overheard this and devised a plan for her favorite son, Jacob. She instructed him to disguise himself as Esau, using goat skins on his hands and neck to mimic his hairy brother, and to take a meal she had prepared to his father. Hesitantly, Jacob obeyed. He went to his father, who was suspicious. Isaac asked, "Who are you, my son?" Jacob replied, "I am Esau, your firstborn." "Steal l'ensure," Isaac said. "Come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not." After feeling the goatskins, Isaac was deceived and bestowed upon Jacob the coveted blessing of abundance, dominion, and divine favor, saying, "May nations serve you, and peoples bow down to you. Be lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you." When Esau returned and discovered the deception, he was filled with a bitter and vengeful rage. He cried out with a loud and bitter cry, and vowed to kill Jacob after their father's death, fearing for Jacob's life. Rebekah urged him to flee to her brother Laban's house in Haran, until Esau's anger subsided, and so Jacob embarked on a long and lonely journey. One night, he stopped to rest, using a stone for a pillow. In a dream, he saw a stairway resting on the earth, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God ascending and descending on it. Above it stood the Lord, who said, as recorded in Genesis chapter 28, verses 13-15, "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. I am with you, and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you." When Jacob awoke, he was filled with awe. He realized he was in a holy place, the house of God, the very gate of heaven. He named the place Bethel. This divine encounter was a turning point, God's first direct promise to Jacob, assuring him of his presence and protection despite Jacob's own flawed actions. It was a promise of grace, not of merit. Upon arriving in Haran, Jacob met his cousin Rachel at a well and fell instantly in love. He agreed to work for her father, Laban, for 7 years, in exchange for her hand in marriage. The scripture says these 7 years seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. But on the wedding night, Laban deceived Jacob, giving him his older, less favored daughter, Leah. The supplanter had now become the supplanted. The deceiver had been deceived. Furious, Jacob confronted Laban, who offered Rachel in exchange for another 7 years of labor. Yaakov agreed, and for the next 7 years, he worked for his uncle, who repeatedly changed his wages and tried to cheat him. But through it all, God was with Jacob, blessing him immensely. His flocks multiplied, and he became a very wealthy man, with many servants, camels, and donkeys. Jacob's family also grew. Through his 2 wives, Leah and Rachel, and their handmaidens, Bilhah and Zilpah, he fathered 12 sons, who would become the progenitors of the 12 tribes of Israel. After 2 decades in Haran, God commanded Jacob to return to his homeland, the land of Canaan. But the journey home was filled with dread. The memory of Esau's vow of revenge loomed large. As he approached his homeland, Jacob sent messengers ahead to his brother, hoping to find favor. But the messengers returned with terrifying news. Esau was coming to meet him, and with him were 400 men. Fear gripped Jacob's heart. He divided his family and flocks into 2 groups, hoping that if Esau attacked one, the other might escape. Then, in his distress, Jacob turned to God in prayer. He humbled himself, acknowledging his unworthiness and reminding God of his promise to protect him. This was a different Jacob from the young man who had fled his home. This was a man beginning to rely not on his own cunning, but on God's faithfulness. That night, alone and vulnerable, Jacob had his most profound encounter. A man, often interpreted as an angel or even God himself, appeared and wrestled with him until daybreak. Jacob, tenacious and desperate, refused to let go. He declared, as Genesis 32, verse 26 tells us, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." In that struggle, the man touched the socket of Jacob's hip, leaving him with a limp for the rest of his life, permanent reminder of his dependence on God. But he also received a new name and a new identity. The man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." He had wrestled with God and prevailed, not by strength, but by surrender. He named the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." The next day, limpen but transformed, Jacob went to meet his brother. He bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached Esau. But instead of vengeance, Jacob found grace. Esau ran to meet him, embraced him, and wept. The brothers were reconciled. The years of bitterness and fear washed away in a moment of forgiveness. Esau's heart had been softened, a clear act of God's intervention in response to Jacob's prayer and newfound humility. Jacob, now Israel, settled in the land of Canaan. His life continued to have its trials, including the loss of his beloved wife, Rachel, and the painful saga of his favorite son, Joseph, being sold into slavery by his jealous brothers. Yet, through every storm, Jacob held on to the promises of God. In his final days, he gathered his 12 sons and blessed each of them, prophesying the future of their descendants, the tribes of Israel. He passed away at the age of 147 and was buried with his ancestors in the land promised to him by God. The story of Jacob is not a story of a perfect man. Far from it. It's the story of a flawed, ambitious, and sometimes deceitful individual who was relentlessly pursued by God's grace. His life was a constant wrestle with his brother, his father-in-law, his own conscience, and ultimately with God himself. His early life was marked by striving in his own strength, using manipulation to get what he wanted, but his journey transformed him. The stone pillow at Bethel, the years of hard labor and deception under Laban, and the night of wrestling at Peniel, these were instruments in God's hands to shape and mold him. The limp he carried was a symbol of his new reality. His strength was found not in his own ability, but in his weakness and reliance on God. Jacob's name changed from supplanter to Israel, meaning he struggles with God, is the heart of his story. It signifies a shift from a life of grasping and controlling to a life of wrestling and yielding to the divine. His journey teaches us that God can use even our mistakes, our failures, and our brokenness to accomplish his sovereign purposes. He meets us in our loneliest nights, on our most fearful journeys, and invites us into a struggle that ultimately leads to blessing. Like Jacob, we all have our own wrestles in life. We wrestle with our past, our fears, our relationships, and our faith. But his story gives us hope. It shows us that God is not afraid of our struggles. In fact, He often meets us right in the middle of them. He invites us to hold on, to persevere, and to refuse to let go until we are blessed. The blessing may not look like we expect, and it may even come with a limper reminder of our dependence, but it will be a blessing that redefines us, renames us, and sets us on a path of divine purpose. Jacob's life is a powerful reminder that our identity is not found in our past mistakes or our family labels, but in our encounter with the living God, who can transform a supplanter into a prince with God. I want to thank you for watching this powerful biblical story of Jacob all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this video, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of the biblical stories we post here. Click on the suggested video that appears on your screen and watch the next biblical story we lovingly prepared for you. I'm sure you will enjoy it. See you in the next video, and God bless you.